I'm going to start with what we call ePublisher Designer. We have three products. It's ePublisher Designer, ePublisher Express, and ePublisher Automap. In the Designer, what we're doing is we're taking we're giving you a canvas, so to say, to kind of like paint a picture of what you want that output, the look and feel, and how it handles, right? And once you do that, we're going to save those instructions into what we call a stationery. And then once we take that stationery, you can pass that along in Express to other writers, and then they can publish from that stationery. That's your quality control that allows you to make sure that whatever the other writers are publishing, the output's gonna look exactly the way you want it to, because they can't change that stationery. What they can change though is the content, the day-to-day, right? So they can create new content and put it through the stationery. They can modify content, put it through the stationery, and then you're gonna have that quality output that you want. The way we do that is that when it comes to, let's see, what is this? It's June. What I'm doing here is I'm just creating a new project. And we'll do this as far as, we'll just say HTML for HTML output. And I'm going to select WebWorks Reverb here. So what I'm doing here is that I'm just creating a project. The way we recommend your workflow is that you have master projects, and in these master projects is what you would do is you would actually bring in sample documents of what you're going to use, and in these sample sets you're going to run those through and then create your stationery. Once you create your stationery, then I'll show you, we'll move to Express, and then you'll pull in your full document set. But for right now, I'm just going to start with a sample set of documents. Now when I say documents or your source documents, we are a true single source tool, meaning that we will take your document, whether it's in FrameMaker format, Word format, or Data XML. We will open up that source, we will read that source, and then we will generate output from there. So there's no conversion, there's no need for you to map anything. Our tool does that automatically for you. You can see here, so I'm going to add, what are the different source documents that you guys are using? Are you using FrameMaker, or are you using Word? What are you all using? FrameMaker, okay. Word, okay. Perfect. So those would be the ones that I'm going to show you. I'll pull those in. What I'm going to do is what I want you to do, though, and I'm going to show you kind of just how the tool works. I want you to watch this area right in here. So what's going to happen is that I'm going to load a FrameMaker document in here. Let me make sure my FrameMaker is working. Hold on. I just installed FrameMaker 11 on this system, and for whatever reason, it asked me to, every time I open it, it keeps asking me to register the product. So let me make sure that that works before I pull my FrameMaker documents in, because it's important to note what we do is we actually when I pull in a FrameMaker document, you'll see it'll call out to FrameMaker, and it'll use FrameMaker to open up this book map that I'm going to put in here, and then it's going to read it. So it looks like I'm good to go. Let me add the FrameMaker documents. And you can see I'm just pulling a book map here. I'm going to open that up. It's going to ask me if it wants to scan the document. I'm going to say yes. And so what's going to happen is you're going to see it'll scan that document, and then it'll populate this area with all the styling information. By default, what we do is we take the styling information in the source document, and we use that when we generate output. Now there are some things that we have default settings on that we make decisions on, but for the most part, when we're pulling styling information for the content itself, like fonts, spacing, things like that, we pull from the source document. Now you're going to have control to where you can change any of that, but by default, we'll go ahead and pull it in there from that document. So you can see here that this populated up with this area, and in this area, I have all the styling information. Let's see, I'm going to do this as well. We'll add Word documents. Let me put that there. And you're going to see the process is going to be exactly the same. I'm going to come up to my Word document. And in my Word document, I'm going to pull this in. It asks me again if I want to scan it for styles and conditions. I'm going to hit yes, and it's going to pull in all the styling information. Now, with the Word and the FrameMaker examples that we have in here, most of the styling information is pretty similar as far as like chapter titles, headings, just what we use. But the way, now that we've got the documents loaded and we've got the styling information, I can sit there and now I can start generating output. I'm going to generate this output here real quick just to show you what the default looks like. Right now with the Reverb, our default is a Reverb Classic. So we have that. I can show you where you can get to the skins to look at the different skins and things. But we also have like 16 different outputs to choose from. So you can choose a dynamic HTML if you need dynamic output. If you need Eclipse help, we have Eclipse help as an output that you can choose from. If you need Microsoft Word or a Chum format, we have that as well. So we have all these formats, and the reason why we have all these formats is because we know that you can't reach just part of your audience. You want to reach your whole audience. Sometimes they have different ways that they want to see and receive information. So we give you the ability to choose several formats if you need to. And the way you would choose those formats is you just add another target to it. But so what we're doing now, though, is I'm doing Reverb. Reverb's going to generate out, and then by default, I'm going to have this classic output. You can see that it is now generated. Here are the two groups. Did you show me? I've got the chapter 1 in there, and then I have Word chapter 1 there. Now, I'm going to show you a couple of different things. This is how we make changes, right? Because if you look at it, as far as the TOC and what we've built here, you can see everything. You can't tell. The only reason why you can tell that these are from two different sources is because in the source content themselves, like right here, that title right there, that we have FrameMaker written in there. So that's why you know it's a FrameMaker document there. And then I put in a group Word here that actually put it into the TOC. And you can see here that this is a Word document as well. So you can see there are subtle changes. The font's a little bit different. The color is a little bit different. One's bold, one's not. So now you can go through and start telling our tool what behavior you want, and we can get a unified output. So the way I'm going to do that is that, let me close that. Oh, let me show you this as well too. I'm just actually going to close all these. So what happened when I hit the generation button is that our tool generated that output. As you can see the log here, it generated all this, and then what we generated, here's a map to what we generated, but we give you, when we generate output for you, we package it in a useful folder. So if I go to my output directory and I look at it, since this is HTML, what happened here is that you can see this is everything that we generated. The CSS styling sheets, the maps are the linking for it. We have index.html. If I click on that, that's going to pull the page up. But that's all in one simple folder. So if I go one more level up, that's the folder right there. If I was going to deliver this output now, all I would have to do is just compress this folder. I have a zip file, and now I can hand that zip file off to either my IT department or development department. They can now take that and place it either on a web server somewhere, or they can put it on hardware somewhere if they're delivering hardware and software. Wherever they need to put the manual, now you have it. It's just one simple folder that you can just send off and say, this is going to have everything you need, and it'll behave properly. So that's what we did. But let me go ahead now and show you kind of how we're going to make changes. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here, I'm going to click just one single file, and I'm going to go to my display preview. Display preview, we're just giving you kind of a example of what the content looks like, or what the content will look like when we generate it out. If I do the display preview on my Word, it's going to generate another. As you notice, it popped open another window, so it can show me this file, and now I can kind of compare the two. But you're going to notice here when this pops up that the heading is blue and it's not bold. So I'm going to make it match the heading in the FrameMaker files. And this way, again, I'm going to get some uniformity here. when I select this area here, I'm looking at that. You can see here it says chapter title, that grade. So it lets me know that what our tool identifies this certain area of text is a chapter title. If I come over to the Word document, I click on that. That chapter title stays there because again, it's a chapter title. So I know that's the area that I want to start now controlling. If I click on that, that's a heading 2. If I go back to my FrameMaker documents, I can see that's a heading 1. So I've got a couple of different levels of headings in there. First thing I'm going to do though is that you're going to notice that in this area, it's what's neat about the paragraph styles is that it's hierarchical, so I can actually make relationships, right? Like, so you notice I had a heading 1 and a heading 2 in my documents. Well, I'm going to want those to kind of act the same. So it's what I did here is that I just put heading 1 and heading 2 right underneath each other. So now they're whatever changes I make to heading 1, heading 2 will take those changes as well. If I go up here to prototype, prototype is the very top level. So if I make any changes here, all the content will inherit those changes. So I'll go to prototype and I'll actually make sure that I lock some things down there. I'm going to give everything an Arial font. I'm going to hit OK. Size, we're going to do, we'll just keep it custom. But styles, I'm going to go to normal. I'm going to normalize everything. And then I'm going to come down here and I'm going to say, okay, for my color for my text, I want it to be black. So now any content I run through this tool or the stationery that I'm developing is what's going to happen that regardless of the styling information that's in the source content, it's going to take that and it's going to apply an Arial font, or will only generate the content in an Arial font, and it's going to make sure everything is normal. You notice there's no bold here anymore, and then it's also going to make sure that the color is black. So and what I did here is that I just hit this refresh preview, and basically it's showing me, hey, this is what it would look like if it generated out. So that first one here, again, that's my Word document there. Excuse me, I'm sorry, this is my FrameMaker document here. This is my Word document. And once it gets through generating, you're going to see that it's going to be very similar now. And there it is. So I've made it pretty much uniformed as far as in, when generating the tool out. Or when I generate out, it doesn't matter where the source content, what the source content is. This is what's, all the content is going to look uniform now when I generate out. I'm also going to do a few extra things here too, just so that you can see the differences. On this chapter title, our company colors are orange and black. So what I'll do is I'll give it a, let's see, we'll do a orange background, and I'm going to put an underline on it as well. As you can see here, I have several things that I can select and that I can choose from. We give you a lot of control, so you're going to be able to make these things look just about as however you want them to look. You also notice too that I'm making all these changes. I'm not having to write one line of code. I'm actually just making these changes with a point-click interface that we have here. That's what makes our tool so easy and so adaptable for people to use. Also too, if you think about it, you really only need one person that understands the tool well enough to create a stationery. Once I create a stationery and I pass it to other writers, that expertise is then shared with those writers, because they'll grab that stationery and then all they have to do is put in the right source documents and generate output. They don't have to know anything else about our tool. So it's very easy to train on. It's very adaptable within an environment, within writing environments and writing departments, and it's very scalable. I mean, you can, however large your document set is, you can actually now manage your document set and break it up in a way to where you can be more productive, because whereas instead of just having one person produce output, now you can have several writers produce output. They can be in charge of certain sections or certain products, and that output is going to look exactly the way you want it to, however you design that stationery. So you can see features pretty much. Now this is a heading 1 and heading 2. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go up to my heading 1, and we're just going to put an orange border all the way around this. See what that looks like. Give it a second to generate. While it's generating, are there any questions right now? Okay, good. So last thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to go back up to my chapters, and I'm going to we give you other options where we can actually build certain features into the output. To give you an example of that, I'm going to build mini TOCs in the output that I'm going to generate this time. So I'm coming down to it. I'm saying, okay, there are my outputs. I'm going to hit my generate button. We'll generate an output here, and then I'll show it to you, and we should see the changes in there. Give it a second. And you can see the log running off in the back. If there are any errors that come up in red, you definitely see, you'd be able to see what they are. So here's the generated output. And as you can see, now everything that I put in there, there's the border on the background. It's an Arial font. It looks a lot more uniformed. Even when I come down here to the word, it looks exactly the same. And we actually now put the mini TOCs in here that has links in there that I can now jump down to the and now I can jump down to certain spots within that chapter. Basically, is what I'm doing with the mini TOCs. You can see these are just the heading 1s and heading 2 chapters that are in there. And then I'm also, you notice I've got the borders around there. So, and since my heading 1s and my heading 2s are behaving the same, they appear the same at the TOC level. So we give you a lot of control. Now, if you ever want to do something a little bit more advanced, another nice feature about our tool is that we give you access to all the styling information. You can see here I went to my Advanced tab, and these are the page information I have. Here's the styling sheets. It's as simple as just right-clicking and creating a customization, and then I can explore to, and right there, that's the CSS information that I have. We try to format the CSS style sheets that we have in there in a way to where you can, it's easily identifiable where you need to go. We also have documentation on this, on how to create or where to go to make changes. But we also have things for you, other tools post-purchase for you, such as one of my favorites is the study hall. We get a lot of positive feedback about that. But we run study hall about twice a month. And in the study hall is what you're able to do is that you're able to come in with a developer. You can bring your own project in, and then you do a share screen. It's like in a Google Hangout, and you get to say, hey, this is what I'd like to do. What's the best way about doing this? And then they can give you advice. So it's one-on-one with the developer, and it's really beneficial to you, and it really helps you, create those stationery and save them the way you want. Let's see. Kevin has a question. Can I use the Advanced tab to customize skin colors? Yeah, absolutely, Kevin. I mean, it's basically what happens is that, let's see, this is the, let me create the customization there. See if I can show you this real quick. Okay, so as you can see, this is the skin's color right here. Basically, is all I did is I just dragged that skin.html and I put it in here. It's what I'll show you is like you can see this is the TOC and this is the default behavior for the TOC. I can get into the CSS. Oops, let me open that up with Word so it looks a little bit better. So since we're allowing you access to, with the CSS, is basically what you can do. Let me go down and find that TOC. Actually, let me show you this too, and I'll show you what I mean by we actually go through and kind of format this. So if you go up here, this is again a working area of the HTML. So when you're going through and you're adjusting the CSS, the style sheets in it, you can actually kind of see what you're doing, what changes you're making. You can see here that it starts with the company info. We come up here to the very top. You see company info right there. So as I'm scrolling down, I can see I come across the progress bar here, There's the progress bar there. And then after I get through the progress bar, you're going to see a couple of different, like, index right there. That's that index right there. So we kind of give you clues to where you can go to find buttons and where you're going to make those changes. Is what I'm going to do is I'm going to get down here to this area here, the TOC, and I'm going to change that background color. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm just kind of scrolling through this. The only reason is I work with this. This is why I know this. It's really this easy though. It's not that it's not difficult at all. But let me get to the TOC entry. Let's see, background color on container. You can see here it says that's the TOC container right there. We're going to change this to yellow. I'll save it. I'll refresh this, and then you can see it changed that color to yellow. So with the advanced tab, you can absolutely go in there, change the skin colors. You can change the gradients. You can change, just whatever really you want to through that advanced tab. You can even change the layout. I mean, we give you access to everything. Also 2 images. Like if I go in here, and where's my images? Okay, so here's my images. Creating customizations. You see I just created customizations right there and they went bold. If I refresh my page over here, you can see it populates the images. So in the images in the PNG, we go to that file. When I open up that file here, all the images you're going to see are going to be right in one page. See, we have all the images listed in that one page. If you're familiar with vector files and stuff, it's easy to get a fireworks PNG. That's a vector file, and then you can open that up, and then you can change each individual images. So, even if you aren't an advanced programmer or advanced CSS expert, we've actually arranged the default files to where it's very easy for you to go in, figure out what area you need to change, and then make changes. Now, if you have a CSS expert around there, all they really have to do is just go in and you hand them this file. And you say, here's the default skin file, can you make the changes for me? They make the changes, and once they save it, they send it back to you, then you just put it in the right area. Because what's happening is that as I'm making these changes, they're actually getting stored in, you can see I have the target format override directory here. They're getting stored in that directory. So you can see here, here's the pages, there's the CSS, that's the CSS skin that I made the changes to. There are the images that I have, it's only the 2 images, and then here's the skin.html that I'm making custom changes to. Because what we're doing is that we're storing that information, so when you create a stationery, all that information goes with the stationery. That's how we keep it all together, and that's also why your other writers don't really need to know much about this tool, because you've already made the changes, you're saving it, and then you're handing it off to them to where they're just running content through. So this is where I'm at, right? And let me go ahead and I'm going to generate another output for you here real quick, just so you can show it's going to generate the TOC with the yellow background. It'll look a little ugly, but you can see that you can make those changes. Thanks, that will get the marketing police off my back. That's awesome. All right, good. Hey, anything that we can make your life easier. I mean, that's what we're here, right? We're here to help support your success. So getting them off your back will definitely help your success. So as you can see, all my changes are still in there as far as the orange, and I guess I should have made that orange. And then you can see the yellow change in the background, so you can control all that right there. All right, let me show you the next stage. So, and again, like I said, pretty much the only limitations you're ever going to have are going to be with the environment that you're generating out to. So if you're generating WebWorks Reverb, HTML5, then whatever can happen in HTML5 in that area, you're going to be able to put into our tool, those specific instructions in our tool, and we'll generate that every time. But like if you're generating into, say, like, we've got simple HTML as well. In the simple HTML, there's no JavaScripting, there's really no frills. So if you have a JavaScript that you're running in HTML5, you can't put that JavaScript into simple HTML because it's the environment that you're generating into that's causing the restriction. It's not a restriction in our tool. So we do have some guidelines behind that, like what you can do in the tool and what you can't do. Excuse me, what you can do in that environment, what you can't do in that environment. What we do on our end is that anytime that technology changes and they give you more features, we will actually put that into our tool. And then we do a release. Once we do that release, all you have to do is download the release and update it, and then when you update it, you've got those new features. That's another service that we provide. We release anywhere from 2 to 4 times a year. When we're doing The reason why we're doing that is because if we do have new features like that, we want to make sure that you have them. If we don't, also too, what we're putting in those releases is compatibility. As you know, browsers are real popular now. There are a lot of them out there that they all want to be the best. So they're all changing. They're breaking things. They're inventing new things so they can offer new features and people want to use them. I'm talking about Safari, Chrome, Internet Explorer, and then Firefox, all those out there, right? Well, we test our outputs in those browsers, especially when they update them. If we need to fix something because they broke something in the update, we'll go ahead and fix that, and then we put in a release, and then you download the release, and then you just regenerate out, and you've got those compatibility fixes. So again, we're trying to, everything we do, we're doing it so you can provide the best experience for your customer. And then that customer is going to appreciate what you're doing for them and really get a lot of good information out of it, because that every time they call for that documentation, it's going to get delivered to them. All right, so I'm going to save the stationery now. You can see here it has the one. If I had more targets on this stationery, it would have them listed, and I could either check or uncheck them. But right now, we just have the one target, so I'm going to hit OK. And it will save that. So we're finished here with Express for now. Excuse me, we're finished here with Designer for now. Is what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring Express over. And Express is our day-to-day one. Where did my Express go? There it is. So Express is our day-to-day, or would be your day-to-day workflow in Publisher. And when we sync an Express project with the stationery, what you have now is that you have one-click publishing. So let me show you. So I will do this. I'm going to create a new project, and we're going to call this June Show Me Again. I'm going to sync it with the stationery that I just created. And then for now, I'm just going to add these Word documents, this one right here. All right, so now I have my Word document in there. And so when I generate it out, let's see what we should get this. Just doing a generation here. My Express project is set up. I'm just going to generate an output, and then I'm going to run a test generation right here. So I just want to make sure we're getting the right output when we generate out. Give that a second. And you notice that the generations actually get quicker as they go along, because we do first generation, we're generating everything from scratch. After that, we put things in temporary folders. So generations after that, it will actually increase your speed. So okay, so here we are. Now, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what your writers or yourself would be doing on your day-to-day. There's my generated output, and now I'm going in and I'm changing stuff. So I'm just going to open up this file here real quick. This is the Word file. As you can see, it's still blue and it's not in an Arial font because we never change the source content, right? The source content will always stay. All we ever do is just open it up so we can scan it. So let's change this to docs. We'll save that, and then I'm also going to add some more. Not only did we change the existing content, but we added new content as well. So let's get those new documents in here. We added a chapter 7, and we'll do chapter 8 as well. And you can see here that once I put it in, it's scanning them and it's going to update them. So your day-to-day, you're creating that content, you're changing it. This also works with variables and conditions. Also, too, anything you're doing in the source document, we're going to be able to produce in the output. So if you have links, like you have related topic links, or you have links to, other documents within this. If I had links from exploring ePublisher to chapter 8, things like that. All that stuff would come through, and we make sure that the links are still there, because like your authoring tool does, when you create like a link in, you either insert text or you create a link in your authoring tool, which would either be Word or FrameMaker in your guys' case, that tool is creating that path, right? So whenever you look in the document, it looks correct. We do the exact same thing. We realize when we open up the source documents and we start scanning them, we realize, hey, there's a path here to another document. We will then look for it, record that information, and then when we generate output, we will actually then make sure that those links are in the output, but of course they are in whatever format that you've decided to generate it out to. So whether it's instead of a FrameMaker document format or a Word document format, it would be an HTML format, or it would be in PDF format, whatever you generate it out to. So as you can see here, I'm going through, and now if I go to this, you can see it picked up that change as far as there's the doc. So all the changes I made in there, and also added chapter 7 to this as well. So, and chapter 8. So this is all, and I can sit there and say to myself, okay, here's what, if you look at it, this looks a little different in the fact that it's not pulling that into the TOC the way it should be, right? I don't want this to stand out. I want this to stand under here. So I need to figure out what's going on there. So let me show you how you do that. If somebody pulls something in, then is what I would do, because right now, first of all, I just want to make sure, before I move on to the corrections, I want to make sure everybody understands the workflow. So right now you see that in Designer, you create your stationery. Once you have your stationery saved, you go into Express, you set up your Express projects, and then day to day you're just working in your source content. And when you get that stuff done in your source content, all you gotta do is push a button and generate it out. So that's what I've just shown you. In this instance, I'm saying, okay, we've run along perfectly. It's 7 months down the road. We're doing perfect, not a problem. And then all of a sudden, I'm going, hey, look, we changed something in our practice. We had to change something as far as the way we authored our source content. Okay, Chris, how do I now get in here and fix my output to where it's going to do this correctly? This is how you do it. You go back to your designer. So I'm going to open up my designer project, and I'm going to go back to the one that I actually created my stationery with. And this is that June Show Me. It's that one right there. And I'm going to say, okay, I'm experiencing something a little bit different when I add those chapter 7 and chapter 8. So I'm going to pull in those documents. And there's chapter 7. There's chapter 8. Oh, it's going to scan each document when I pull them in, so give it 1 second to do that. Going to pull in chapter 8 now. And now I'm going to generate a preview in that chapter 7. I'm going to see what's going on. So remember, right here, our tool's doing all the work for you. It's scanning that document, it's pulling the information in, it's going to give you a nice display, and you're going to be able to fix problems very easy. Alright, so what are we doing here? This is chapter title. That's right. What is this? That's a heading 1. Alright, so I'm going to say, well, you know what? Here's what I want to happen. I want to make sure that when we're doing the chapter titles, that they are a TOC level 1. You can see here I'm doing an auto detect, but I want to make sure now, let's make sure that they know for certain it's a level 1. And then when I come to this one, I want to make sure that they know this is a level 2. Okay, so now let's generate the output and see what see if those changes helped. Now keep in mind, I know they look very similar and they're designed to look very similar, but right now I'm doing this all through Designer, because if you think about it, or with the workflow, you're going to have one writer who's in the Designer who's creating these stationaries. I'm going to show you here, you're going to be able to see here that once I get it fixed and I save a new stationery, then I can deploy that stationery out to my writers, and then that's going to be fixed on all their machines or all their Express projects. That's why this tool is really scalable. It's because when you do make changes, and remember, this is just in the demo. We're just doing a TOC change to make sure the TOC looks right. But remember, you can do this with, if you change your company colors, if branding changes, if just one product brand changes. This is stuff that you can do. You can make it easy, quick changes here. Save the stationery, pass it along, and then they're not going to have to. You're going to see I'm not going to have to rework or reinvent that Express project I have. All I've got to do is just sync it with the change stationery. So let's see what the output looks like. It looks like it worked that time. And yeah, there we go. My chapter 7 and my chapter 8, they are behaving properly in this one. So this is the one I want. So I go, okay, good. Got my changes. I like it. Let's go back and save that stationery. All I'm going to do is save the stationery with the exact same name. June Show Me. I'm going to say okay. I'm going to hit yes. And then boom. It's done. So I close that out. And I say, okay, you guys sync that stationery now, and you should have the changes that you need. So my writer, again, one of the writers who really don't need to know much about our tool, they're going to open up that Express project they have. Again, our tool's doing most of the work. You can see it says, here we go, the stationery in this project is linked, has been modified. It's letting me know I'm modified. It's saying, do you want to sync, would you like to sync to the new stationery now? I'm going to hit OK, hit yes. And then all they're going to have to do after that is just hit publish. I mean, it's really that simple. And you're going to see that once it publishes here, since we sunk with the new stationery, those new changes are going to be there. This is also how you're going to handle updates, like when, compatibility fixes for, either browsers, or if there's, new features out of an HTML output that you want, that we've developed in there. This is the exact same process you go. Any change you want to make, it's perfect, right? Because all you're doing is going in one place, creating that designer, saving that stationery, sending that stationery out, and then all they got to do is sync with it. And you're going to see right here when this pops up, those chapter 7s and chapter 8 are behaving exactly the way they need to now. All right, and I've got everything in there. And so that's it. Did that make sense? Okay. You think so? Okay, fine. All right. Well, if we're about out of time here, so I got to kind of wrap it down. But if you have any other questions, feel free to email me. Let me give you my email address here. I'm going to go ahead and shoot it there. Again, Show Me is always set to be like a generalized overview. So you can see just kind of basically what the workflow is. We do set it up to where I know it's a lot to absorb just because our tool can do a lot. I mean, it does a lot of work for you. So there's a lot of information in there, but we're here to help. We're here to help you through that process. Also, too, after you purchase from us, like I said, post-purchase help, we've got tons of it. If you go to our website, you can see that we've got, of course, we've got videos and webinars that are recorded. I have this Show Me recorded, so I'll have that available here probably next week. But if you go there, if you look on our website here, as far as support goes, we've got our online documentation, eSchool. This is where you can find the study hall, but this is also where you can find some webinars. Keep in mind though, the webinars and the documentation, it's pretty generalized, right? I mean, we have to write that or present those in a way that is, a generalized information for everybody. When you want to get specific information, on your projects, that's when you go into study hall. You'd hit study hall, and then you bring your projects in, and we can give you specific help to your project. So, well, like I said, we're about out of time. So thank you for coming. I appreciate it. If you do have any questions, my email address is right there at christopher@webworks.com. Paul, I think you and I have an appointment to talk later today. So if you want to keep those questions, yeah, okay. If you want to keep those questions, or write them down, we can address them then as well. So I'll be more than happy to go over it with you then. But thank you for attending Study Hall, and you guys have a great day, and we hope to earn your business.